Today's session is The Time Is Now, Igniting Minority and Women-Owned Businesses. I'd like to welcome everyone here this afternoon. My name is Jason Shaddix. I'll be the facilitator, so if anybody needs anything during the session, please just let me know. There will be some Q&A throughout the session. At that time, just raise your hand and I will come and bring the mic to you. Right now, I would like to introduce our moderator. Her name is Angela Livas. She is with the woman behind the business. With that, I give you Angela.
Angel.
Angel, I'm sorry, Angel. I am so sorry.
It's okay. Hello. That's my mic on? Okay. Hello, everybody. Is everybody enjoying the conference? Yes. All right, so during this, we're gonna switch it up a little bit. We know you guys have been sitting still quite a bit. And so I am going to just briefly tell you their names and what company they're from. Actually, go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to jump right in. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kimberly Dorsett, and yes, thank you.
She has a fan club.
That's awesome. I would say it's better than having a heckler. So I am a market executive for the retail community bank at Truist, and I serve the markets of Florida, Alabama, and Texas. I also am really proud to say I sit on the Operation Hope Southeast board. So very, very excited to be here today with you.
Good afternoon, Robbie Shapira. I lead small business diversity at Wells Fargo Bank. Well, thank you. From Seattle, Washington, so happy to be with you all and proud that my team works specifically with diverse communities and customers. So excited to share more.
Great. And good afternoon. My name is Charmaine Ward-Milner, and I'm the Director of Corporate Relations for Georgia Power. I have statewide responsibility, and I focus on African Americans, Hispanic, Asian, LGBTQ, women, and seniors, and I also serve on Operation Hope Southeastern Board.
Okay, so you guys know a little bit about us. I want to know a little bit about you. How many of you are in corporate America? Just give me, raise your hand. Oh, yeah, corporate. Okay, love it. And how many of you are business owners?
Ooh, that's good.
Okay,
that's good.
That's about almost
there you
even. Almost. All right, so throughout this conversation, we're going to give you a little bit of information, how we're going to start it off. Then we're going to pose you with a question about 20 minutes in. And then we want you guys to talk about it. You can either talk about it amongst the table or I'll just ask depending on how much time we have before we have to get to the next session. Cool? Everybody's good with that? All right, awesome. All right, so Charmaine, we are gonna actually start with you.
Okay.
You have a personal kind of affinity for being a catalyst. What does it mean to you to be a catalyst for the people in your community, especially for diverse communities?
Oh, wow, that's a great question. First of all, catalyst is one of my favorite words, and it's all about movement, making things happen, change. To be a catalyst is to really be that thing that gets things started, and that's what I like to really think of myself as in the community. And my team is how do we make things happen in the diverse customer communities that we serve? And so we look at a number of things. We try to educate on energy initiatives. We try to build advocacy around energy issues, and we try to enhance the Georgia Power brand in those diverse communities. And we do that through a number of ways. Number one, we're present. You have to be there to win, right? You have to be there to play. So we are in the community everywhere you can be. As you know, now it's a little different during COVID, but we still try to do it whether it's virtually or hybrid. The second thing we do is corporate sponsorships. We also do in-kind donations, and we like to also give our human capital. I like to say I channel my inner Oprah all the time, and I serve on panels and I moderate. And then finally, we leverage our ERGs or our employee resource groups. All of those are ways that we can be catalysts in the diverse customer communities that we serve across the state of Georgia.
Great answer. Thank you. It was such a great answer. I want to ask it to you, Kimberly. How is Truist being a catalyst for the individuals in the community that they serve?
So I would answer that a couple different ways. And before I do, I just want to say it's really, really a pleasure to sit on the panel with both Charmaine and Robbie. And of course, Angel. That's a given. And so I have been talking to Angel all day long about her TED Talk. And so I am just very, very honored to be here with all of them. So thank you very much. So a couple different ways. I would say first through our investment. And we've heard a lot today about investment. but action-oriented investments. And so investments that mean something after the fact as well. And so I think about a couple of investments that we've made. And I know that all of you have heard of the investment we've made supporting Operation Hope and our ongoing relationship. And so the investment itself matters, but what we do after the fact, and that's the building part of our purpose. And so not only are we really supporting the 1 MBB, obviously, and we know we're going to exceed that goal by 2030, but we're also offering up a minimum of 1,000 hours working towards that goal. And I say a minimum because we really believe that we will break through as it relates to supporting this endeavor with our teammates. So that has been a really important part of our investment in action. And then I would say thirdly, the work that we do in Hope Inside and the expansion there. That is something that we are very committed to, and we have made quite put a stake in the ground as it relates to serving in 1,000 branches in that model, that Hope Inside model. And so I think that's the active part of the investment, and that's really important for us.
I love it. Now, we have all sat through the last 20 months and being in a pandemic. A lot of businesses have suffered. So at Wells Fargo, what are some of the things that you have seen and been able to be a part of and being able to help these women and minority-owned businesses be sustainable?
Yeah, thanks, Angel. Welcome, everybody. You know, I think, and we're not through the pandemic yet, but, you know, business owners, like we've been hearing John talk about and so many great panelists share, you know, have been hit inordinately hard. Imagine that your business is dependent on foot traffic or in-person interaction, the event planners. I'm so grateful to see you all here. I'm so grateful to be here. And that reality, you know, encouraged us as a community to create government stimulus through our voice and our votes. And that government stimulus, as was shared earlier, actually by the executive from Truist, has made a significant impact in terms of funding. At Wells Fargo, we did over $14 billion in PPP loans, primarily over 85% of them to smaller businesses, 10 or less employees, under $50,000. But now it's the activation of those dollars. So as an example, we received over $420 million through Paycheck Protection from the SBA, and we donated every cent back into diverse small business with an emphasis on diverse small business, but now it's the action of those dollars. So as an example, more than $1 million went to 1 MBB, and from our Open for Business Fund, the proceeds that Wells Fargo received from PPP, but now it's the human capital investment. I think about if every dollar we invest comes with subject matter expertise and technical assistance for business owners in the room, the grant or the help with a loan is wonderful, but then getting to the next level, leveling up your business also takes mentorship and expertise. I think that is where we are today.
Okay,
Absolutely.
I love it. Now, Charmaine, how does Georgia Power support minority businesses?
Wow. So we do a lot of support. Now I'm in corporate relations, but I partner all the time with our supplier diversity team. One of the things that you should know is that Georgia Power was the first utility to start a supplier diversity program in 1978, the very first ever. So that it is always, thank you, it has always been important to us. So we do a couple things, and I wanted to make sure that I got it right. Number one, we buy products and services, right? I mean, at the end of the day, that's what this is all about, because we know when we buy the products and services from these small and micro businesses, it takes them to another level. And when they can say Georgia Power is one of their companies that they do business with, that opens the door for other companies to do business with them. The second thing is we know that it really changes in terms of the income that is being able to be derived from these businesses, not just the income of the employees, but also that whole ecosystem that is developed when that small business gets a contract with Georgia Power. The third thing is jobs that are created, just straight up. We created 10 more jobs or 100 more jobs because Georgia Power gave us a contract. And then finally, taxes. You know, we all have to do it, but when they pay personal taxes as well as business taxes, those taxes are invested back in our communities. And what we know is when we have thriving small businesses, we have thriving communities, we have a thriving Georgia, which means we have a thriving Georgia Power. And that's what we really want.
You better come through with that branding for Georgia Power. right, so I want to take this into a space of listening, right? A lot of times businesses, they say, this is what we're going to do. We know what the community needs, but you can't know what the community needs unless you're listening and you're an avid listener. Kimberly, what have you been hearing small businesses say that they are looking for in regards to support from their bankers?
Yeah, so the great thing about my role at Truist is I get to see firsthand, almost on a daily basis, the thriving or the plight of minority-owned businesses as well as women-owned businesses. And here's what I'm hearing in the markets that I serve. And these are in no particular order, but first and foremost, ongoing education and support. But not only education or education in a box, it's education that is really, really flexing to the environment that we're in today. And so everything is changing so quickly. So the demand is higher for better education and support, but it's in all stages of the business. So not just entrepreneurial or startup support, which we all do very well in that partnership with Operation Hope, and the work that we do to support entrepreneurs is very, very important and crucial to thriving minority-owned business and women-owned business, but then the growth stage, and then the sustainment stage, and lastly, the legacy stage, which we all hope to be in, right, where we're passing on our business. And the last thing I would say also is that it's really, really important to help those businesses grow. There's a quick client story of I don't know, how many of you are from Kissimmee, Florida? Okay, that's what I thought might happen. But there was a client, and years ago in the entrepreneurial seminar that we launched with Operation Hope in Kissimmee, Florida, in a library, when we followed the journey of our clients, 2.5 years later, this minority-owned, female-owned business was hiring her first 3 employees. That may not sound like a drop-the-mic moment, but that growth from sole proprietor to hiring their first employees means everything, and it means everything to us. And so those are the moments that we're listening the most, and that's what our clients are saying. Help us get there.
Did you all want to add to the listening?
Well, I do. One of the things I think is so critical is that we listen. Too often we come up with solutions in a room without the people we're making the solutions for. And so one of the things I'm really proud, and this goes a little bit beyond just the small businesses, but when COVID started to happen, the one thing our team said is, how are we going to engage with our diverse customer community, right? How are we going to engage with our diverse partners? And so I said, this is how we're going to do it. We're going to meet them where they are. And so we challenged ourselves to meet with 80% of our diverse customer nonprofit organizations, which included minority chambers, within 4 months. And we met with them virtually, face to face. And I said, how you doing? What's going on in your community? What can we do for you? We met with over 65 community partners, and we asked them all the same questions. We aggregated all that data, and then we came back to our leaders and said, here's what we heard. Here's what the community is asking for. And when you talk specifically about the small businesses, it varied. It varied from everything from, you always support us, Georgia Power, but we need you to pivot. We need COVID dollars. We need COVID relief. We need masks. We need protective equipment. And so we did that, and we pivoted those dollars. We had other organizations that said, this is the greatest time we've ever had, right? Everybody wants food, but we need more capacity. We heard that. So it just depended on that particular business, but we heard them and we tried to meet them and meet their needs. But it starts with listening, so that's a great question.
Do you mind if I add too, Angela?
No, go ahead.
We did a listening session with a community lender in Philadelphia, specifically a community lender called the Enterprise Center that works primarily with Black African American owned businesses. And the thing that I heard overwhelmingly is, you have to be here for us. For generations, the financial system has not been the most hospitable, open place for Black-owned business. And so doing that means changing things, being dynamically different. In the US, 20% of people don't have a credit score. It's because the standard credit scoring system does not account for other forms of tracking and payment, like rental payments. And that is a revolution in the financial industry that every major financial institution should be a part of. Because like John was saying in just the last session, the difference that it makes when you have a strong FICO is just dynamic in terms of building wealth. I love the story of the mother who was just had a dream and through Operation Hope was able to buy her first home and paint her room for her daughter. And it is exactly that we're hearing from our business owners as well to say, it's not the same old, same old. If you want to really help me in my business, you have to change. And you have to, really kind of put your money where your mouth is.
Speaking of putting your money where your mouth is, a lot of money is running out for small business owners. In the sense that, there was relief from PPP, there's relief from the EIDL loans and all that. But now some of the credit card companies are like, okay, we gave you a hold, and, SBA is like, okay, we gave you a hold if you had an SBA loan. But now that money you need to start paying.
Yeah.
What are the banks doing to help those individuals who are like, yo, I still need help. I still, this is our first major event we were able to host. What are you doing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a couple things that I'll mention, and there's a host of things, but one thing that comes to mind is our Lift Fund. And we're very, very proud of that. And that's a CDFI that is a recipient of a grant from us. And I guess the most important part of that is that it reaches so many small business owners, and 83% of the small business owners that those grants reach for that specific reason are minority owned. And so it is really critical that we have that. We have Truist Cares as well. And again, I think what Robbie said about, putting your money where your mouth is so important. We've put $50 million towards Truist Care, but that's not the story. The story is how that translates into hundreds of business clients that we speak to and get feedback from. And 80% of those small business clients that are recipients of those grants are minority owned. And so we pay particular attention to ensure that we can match where the need is to where we are going to fund. So it's really, really critical because it is not over for our small business owners, and they are saying that loud and clear, and they want that ongoing support. So, and I also think it's really important, just to add to that point, that we have to ensure that we're flexible in the support that we're giving, and that we're creating options that are relevant for today, not yesterday. And that will be, I believe, our future. We will always have to remain very steadfast in how we create relevancy and support for them.
Robbie?
Yeah, I think some too is, two things. I would say I'm a believer that, like it takes a village to raise a child, it takes a village for a small business. And if I only give you one piece of advice, it is have a great banker in that village, someone who listens to you and cared about your story. And whether that banker's at Truist or Wells Fargo or wherever, what matters is that they're an advocate for you, because they will tell you about programs. They will put in the most accurate application and give you every chance for approval. They'll stick with you when the answer is, hey, your credit card payment is due. But you know what? That's not the end of the story. Let me make a call with you. Let's see what we can do. Because the truth is that our society hasn't recovered.
That's right.
And the other thing that I believe in is we have got to continue to create a movement of we support our local communities. When my husband and I got married just a few years ago, we decided that every vendor would be a small business, and also wherever possible an LGBTQ plus owned business, because that's our community. But what I loved too was the intersectionality. We did not do a wedding cake. We did a French macaron cake made by a business owner in Seattle who is a woman business owner and a person of color. And I'm so proud to be an advocate, a supporter, and to be honest, just a cookie lover of her business.
That's fantastic.
So this is going to be our last question, and I'm going to push the envelope with this one a little bit. And Charmaine, actually, I'm gonna do two because I want to let you close out with a question because it's another kind of banking question.
Okay.
All right. I've heard a lot of collaborations and partnerships with large organizations. I've heard how much money has been given in support of these large organizations. And I don't want to talk about grants. I don't want to talk about loans. I'm talking about money given in support of us working together towards an initiative. How is Truist and how is Wells Fargo partnering with small businesses and forming those collaborations and giving those large dollars in support of what their initiatives are?
Yeah. I'll give a quick example. So we launched a women-owned business program called Connect to More, societal resources that we can do. We've got subject matter expertise, financial expertise we can share. But what I can't do is I can help a business like yours, Angel, to identify a mentor who's 2, 3, 5, 10 years further in their business journey to come back and give you advice. But an organization like the NASDAQ Entrepreneurial Center, the NEC can. And so one of the investments we made is in a contract with NEC specific to women-owned business that where they pair up, they identify amazing mentors for women-owned business. And every year we're putting 500 women-owned businesses through from 2021 to 2022 with great plans to continue to expand that partnership, because we know that's not something that we can do as well as a business owner who's been there can help that other women business owner thrive and be successful.
You could be in politics, because that was a nice little.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would add to that. I think that's spot on. One of the things that we have seen, and I would say we have seen this consistently, but absolutely right now, more than ever in the last year, is the need to bring our small business owners together, but ensure that they have a comfort level. And I'll give you an example of somewhere we've invested and then the networking that has come out. We have a multicultural program at Truist, and we are very proud of the work that they have done. And it is so important. And over 50% of our branches almost are multicultural, and they mirror the community. And so it's really important that the community feels that, and that they feel from a multi-language standpoint, from a marketing standpoint, that we are supporting them. But that when we bring together those clients, they then create those networks, and then they can grow together successfully. And so that's just another place that we spend a lot of time and effort to ensure that there's that connectivity in the communities that we serve.
And the listening, love it. Okay, Charmaine, I'm coming back to you. Now, I recently read that Georgia Power has a new a Minority Chamber of Commerce forum. Can you talk to us a little bit about that? But I got like 2 minutes.
Okay, yes, really quickly. So yes, small businesses, they need the dollars, they need resources. But one of the other things that's very important to small business is chambers of commerce, because that's where they get resources, they get education, they get to talk with other like-minded people. So one of the things we focus on is minority chambers of commerce. We have identified over a dozen minority chamber of commerces, and there are probably more out there: Vietnamese, Taiwanese, LGBTQ, African American, Hispanic, etc. And every year, this will be, next year will be our 3rd year, we host a minority chamber of commerce forum where we invite the CEO of those chambers, their board, and their members to come. And that day is a half day all about minority small businesses, not about Georgia Power. We kick it off, we host it. This year we had it virtual. And it has just been amazing, not just because we're investing in those organizations that invest in those minority small businesses, but you should have seen the exchange between the minority chambers of commerce. That was incredible to see those leaders begin to say, how can we partner? Because we have some of the same challenges. So it was a win-win-win. And we know that there's power in convening. And so we convene the Minority Chamber of Commerce's together and their members, who are these small businesses. It was just a tremendous, day. And they keep asking us, when are we going to do the next one? So
awesome. All right, so I want to take it to the audience and pose a question for you all. We're just going to throw it out there, raise your hand, say, yo, I got a response that I would like to share. You got something already? Girl, you good. All right, go ahead.
Not to put too much of my business out, but I am a designer. I make clothes. And I actually created an account with Wells Fargo a little bit after I got my first, I only had one PPP loan. And it was kind of a struggle because my account wasn't a business account.
Yeah.
That's with Chase. So I went ahead and opened up a business account with y'all. But after that money ran out, because I had to pay for, I have an assistant I pay, and just also just maintaining my brand. So once that money ran out, I didn't have money to keep putting back into my account. And one day I went to go put money into the account and it was closed. So I don't know. Like, what advice would you give, or what resources is there that I can use to help my brand grow with Wells Fargo or Truist itself.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, let me first just say I'm so sorry to hear because, the last thing that you needed at that moment was to find out that an account that you had, because opening an account is hard, especially a business account. And so it was to find out it was closed. It is the reason why, I was a banker for 5 years. I've been a banker for 23, but I was a banker in a branch helping small businesses for 5 years of my career. And that never would have happened for one of my customers because I cared too much and I knew their stories and I believed in them and I owned it. And I would have picked up the phone and called you. And that is the village member in your village that I wish for you and I want for you at any bank. At Wells Fargo, you can come talk to me after. We will do everything for you that we can. But I get it too. It's because it's not just about the account being closed. It's also about what are my options now?
Yeah.
I am trying to pull myself out of this pandemic. What are the options? And what I'm so proud of is that we at financial institutions can become a connector to a chamber of commerce, to an association, to an industry group, or to a community lender, because that may be one of those organizations, but we should help introduce you. I think that is the responsibility. That is a real banker. The two people that taught me were both women and they were real bankers, and that is what they taught me.
What's your name, my love? Yemi? So as a business owner to business owner, I would say you want to establish a relationship with your banker. You need to have a business banker on your side because if something is happening, you need somebody to advocate for you. If you have that relationship, then they will pick up the phone and be like, yo, Yemi, I noticed that this is what's going on. Can you come in? Can we talk? And so it's if you take nothing else from this experience, create a relationship with your banker.
Right.
Absolutely.
All right.
And can I just add to that? And you mentioned it takes a village. And I'm really going to focus on these minority chambers. Many of the chambers, they were getting grants and they were giving out $250 cash to their small members who were, okay, my account's about to close or my door's about to close or I can't pay. They were taking the grants and this was COVID, we pivoted and gave COVID dollars, but they were doing exactly what you said. So it's one thing to say, okay, Mr. Banker, what's wrong? So they would know, but then, okay, I have these other resources where I can get the money from. So make sure that you are creating a village of sorts.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Oh, wait, in the yellow. Oh, sorry, my bad. I couldn't see you, the light.
No problem. My name is Bruce Montgomery. I'm from Chicago. Sometimes coming to this Hope Forum feels like going to another planet because we hear bankers and CEOs talk like we've never heard them talk before. And not only is it phenomenal and inspiring, but I feel like, why doesn't my branch talk like this? Or why don't my people at Wells Fargo or Truist talk like this? My question is, for those of us that may be in a market that does not yet have a hope inside, what can we do to encourage our local branches to get in touch with you guys so they can know about these kinds of programs? And maybe they don't have a hope inside, but they should still be able to talk like you talk.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's a really great point, and it's such a great point. And I'll just comment. I know Robbie has some comments on this, I'm sure. I would say that hope inside is so important, and that's why we're invested so heavily in the relationship. But you can still achieve this and get the support that you need and the network that you need through the banker relationship that Angel just mentioned, but also through some of the outreach program and the programs that some of the banks have created. And so ensuring that you're activated to what's happening. So for instance, we have a multicultural arm of our bank. We invest very heavily within our organization to support all of our communities, and they create content and bring people together in libraries and churches all over communities. And I'm sure it's a community that you live in as well. And so we can still achieve that together. And so I think that's really important, just to make sure that you're asking your banker. Yep.
Okay, awesome. Next question, just because I want to get to as many people.
Well, first of all, I have a comment to make about Truist.
Yes.
I'm a member of the Atlanta Black Chambers, and I met Tamika Stafford, and she was really awesome. She came out to the branch with me and introduced me to the manager, and I opened up my business account. So that was an awesome relationship that she helped me start. So I was thankful for that. The other thing that my biggest obstacle right now is I'm a new startup in COVID, but I'm in the process of writing my book. And so I haven't had sales yet, so I haven't qualified for any of those COVID funds and whatnot. So what I'm really needing is a grant. And sometimes when I see grants and things that big companies are doing, where you have to have made X number of dollars, you have to have X number of employees. What are you all doing for startups?
Yeah, a couple of thoughts on it. So there are organizations that are built around startups, and banks fund those organizations. That is traditionally the way. And so, you know, as like the pitch competition yesterday is a very common concept of how startups receive grants. And so a couple things you can do. You can literally just go to sba.gov and search in your zip code, and it will give you women business centers, CDFIs or micro lenders. They're typically the organizations that promote those types of programs. And I'll tell you honestly, there are folks at those organizations sitting around going, please someone call. Like, I am ready to walk you through a program, to tell you about a grant process, to tell you about a pitch competition that, by the way, I will help get you prepped for. And we send volunteers to those organizations. And of that 420 million that we donated through Open for Business, many of those dollars went into programs just like that. So if you can't find it, the other thing I would add to the comment the gentleman over here shared just a moment ago is we are listening more than maybe we ever have in our lives. Yeah. So, you know, social media, talking to your local, you know, branches, coming up at conferences like this, but, you know, truly you have a voice like never before to tell us how we can be better. And if we listen, that means something. And if we don't, it means go somewhere else, you know, because we should be listening.
And to your point, if you just do a Google search for startup grants, specifically even for what it is that you're looking for a grant for. So for women in the arts grant, like be very specific with what it is that you're looking for. And there will be things that come up, but you have to be diligent. Things aren't just going to appear, and you know, you got to be very specific with what it is. And even if it's, hey, I don't have any employees, put all of that in there and just see what comes back for you.
Yeah.
Who else?
We've got time for one more quick question.
Yeah, I guess, you know, a few of the people who've already asked different questions, and I guess I want to kind of pitch it back to all of you on the stage. You spoke tremendously about the outreach and different things you've done to help. But what type of commitment has your organizations committed to diversity spend within your organization? I hear about all the outreach, but like, what type of program do you have to be able to include participation, minority women businesses, LGBTQ, and so forth? And some cities have it, some don't. I know Atlanta really has their diversity inclusion program throughout the city with Mayor Bottoms here. So let me pose the question back. What is the committed diversity spend within your businesses? That's it.
Sure. Yeah, and I also think it's really important to talk about supplier diversity, because so much of a lot of where we spend our time and effort, and we don't talk about supplier diversity as much. We have already spent $411 million in minority owned, you know, as it relates to supplier diversity, as well as $134 million just for women owned. And so we are continuing that. We're very bullish about our commitment and our ongoing commitment. That's already what we have spent. So supplier diversity is very important to us as well.
Yeah. And I'm so proud that that even exists, supplier diversity, the concept being that we are challenged and encouraged, but really we should own it. It's a community concept to say that we spend over $1 billion with diverse suppliers, but what proportion is that of our total spend? So there are two things. One is we need businesses to become certified through NMSDC or WeBank or the National LGBTQ Chamber, which is called the NGLCC, because that is one of the ways that we know we are spending funds with a diverse supplier, and you become certified through your local diverse chambers. So if you don't have a certification, it's great to investigate what might be right for you. And some of you may have several. You may be intersectionally both a woman and a Black African-American woman, which means you've got options, but it empowers us. The other thing I'd say is don't just hold us accountable for what we spend. Because to be able to get
That's
a
right.
contract with a big firm, you need access to capital. And that is also how we play. Because you
That's
may
right.
want the contract with an energy company,
That's right.
and we play the role in helping your business be ready for that contract.
Right.
Yeah, certification is really important.
Yeah, and I could just talk about Southern Company as a whole. We spent over $2 billion last year with our diverse suppliers. And I just want to go back to what you said. We do need people to be certified, though. That is, there are some requirements to be able to get contracts with any of our companies. And when I talked about that Minority Supplier Forum, we had a whole panel on certification. So we had Out Georgia that does the LGBTQ certification. We had GMSDC. We also had GDOT. Sorry for all these alphabets. I can tell you what they are later. But we had the entire panel was whatever you need to be certified. They talked about the advantages and the benefits of being certified and how important it is. So.
All right, so I know we have to get ready to close out, but before we do, we can't leave without everybody giving us a last closing statement, whether it's an action item, just something to be mindful of, a word of encouragement. Charmaine, I'm gonna start with you.
Yes. So for I'm going to talk specifically to the minority businesses that are out there, the owners. You are not alone. That is what you have to know. You are not alone. So many times I talk to businesses and they just feel like they're sitting in a room in a chair and it's nobody, but there are people. So there are your bankers, you ought to have a board of directors. Who's on your board of directors, right? You ought to have your insurance person, your accountant, et cetera, on speed dial. And then you ought to be part of a chamber, but you are not alone. You don't have to be. There is a village. Take advantage of the village.
And what I would add is, so American Express put out a study, it's called the State of Women in Business. And they estimate that if diverse minority women were at the same level as all women in business, it would add $980 billion to our economy, and it would add 4 million jobs. So when we talk about a bigger pie, in my mind, that's what I'm thinking of. But it starts with all of us as consumers making choices to support our local communities.
right.
And that is part of the village too.
That's right. And I would add, and the same theme, there are resources for you and we are partners in this with you. And so just reach out because truly we are listening because we are ever changing and the environment is changing so fast. So we are evolving just as quickly and trying to. So please, please ensure that your voice is heard each and every step of the way because we are here for you.
And I'm gonna close out again from the business perspective. 90% of women business owners are solopreneurs. So that means we are managing every aspect of our business from the bookkeeping to, I see people, y'all agree? Right? We're doing everything. One of the things that I'm hearing, we're talking about the village, but I was asked a question earlier, how do I build a village? It's great to tell me this is what I need, but how do I find them? Yes, it can be the Chamber of Commerce, but sometimes it has to be on a little bit more personal basis because we look to our friends and we look to our family and sometimes they're the last people that we can count on. Anybody can agree with that? Okay. So you have to find like-minded individuals, find organizations that you can just listen in and see if you can agree with something that that person is saying. Go to like different groups on social media and see if they're having a conversation that you can connect with. You have to take accountability for yourself and step into what you need. Nobody else is just gonna give it to you. You have to take the steps to say, hey, this is what I need to do for me. And these are the people that I need to surround myself with because everybody is not for you. And you can't share your vision and your dream with everybody. You have to be the captain of your ship. So that is what I'm going to leave you with. Thank you all. Thank you, panel, for being here. You guys were amazing.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, that's it.
Wow, thanks for such a great dynamic session.